We're surrounded by these everyday objects that we think we totally get, but some of them have these incredible secrets hiding in plain sight. Today, we're diving into the hidden genius of one of the most common designs in all of human history, the clock face.
Think about it. You probably glance at one of these dozens of times a day, whether it's on your watch or up on a wall. But what if I told you that beyond just telling you the time, its design tells a story that goes back centuries, involving the sun, failed revolutions, and even some seriously clever marketing.
All right, so before we jump back in time, let's just quickly break down what we're actually looking at. Because to really understand its genius, you've got to appreciate the elegant, simple mechanics that make the whole thing tick.
At its heart, it's a really simple system. That flat part with all the numbers, that's the dial. And the little pointers sweeping around, those are the hands. It's a super straightforward design, but get this, it's been our main way of telling time for more than 600 years.
The way the hands all move together is like this beautifully coordinated dance. You've got the second hand sweeping all the way around, and with every single full turn, it gives the minute hand a tiny nudge, one step forward. Then, after 60 of those little steps, the minute hand finishes its own circle, and in doing so, it pushes the hour hand to the next big number. It's just a perfect cascading chain of motion, turning seconds into minutes and minutes into hours.
So this brings us to our first huge mystery. We all just accept the word clockwise without a second thought. But have you ever stopped to ask why that direction? The answer isn't buried in the clock's gears. It's actually up in the sky.
Seriously, why do they move from left to right across the top? Why not the other way? Well, the clue lies with the granddaddy of all clocks, the sundial. As the sun moves across the sky, the shadow it casts traces a very, very specific path.
And this is where it all clicks. The first clockmakers, who were working in the northern hemisphere, they simply copied the natural movement of a sundial shadow. The hands of a mechanical clock are literally following the exact same path the sun's shadow has been tracing for thousands of years. So clockwise is, quite literally, sunwise. How cool is that?
Now, the clock face didn't just appear fully formed one day. Not even close. The very first mechanical clocks didn't even have faces. They were just big, clunky machines designed to strike bells on the hour. It wasn't until the late 1300s that having a single hand on a dial became the standard. And the minute hand? That's actually a pretty recent upgrade. It only became common around 1690, once the technology got precise enough to actually make it useful.
But just as this design was starting to become universal, history decided to throw a massive curveball. During one of the most chaotic times in modern history, some revolutionaries decided, you know what? It's not enough to change the government. We have to change time itself.
You heard that right. During the French Revolution, they introduced something called decimal time. It was a complete and total overhaul of time as we know it. We're talking 10 hours in a day, 100 minutes in an hour, and 100 seconds in a minute. That meant a single decimal hour was more than twice as long as our standard hour. Can you imagine trying to schedule a meeting with a system like that?
Yeah, as you can probably guess, it was a complete disaster. It was confusing, nobody liked it, and the whole thing was officially scrapped after just a couple of years. It was a really powerful lesson that some things, like the 12-hour clock face, are just incredibly hard to replace once they're baked into society. Okay, let's jump to the modern day. If you've ever flipped through a magazine or scrolled online, you might have subconsciously noticed something kind of weird about watch advertisements. They pretty much all have something in common. There's a hidden rule at play here, a little secret of the trade.
The time is almost always set to 10 past 10. I mean, sometimes you'll see 10:08 or 10:11, but it's always right around there. So why? Well, I can tell you it is definitely not a coincidence. It is a very carefully calculated choice.
The psychology behind this is just fascinating. For one, the hands form a V shape, which suggests victory, or even a smile, giving you this positive, upbeat feeling. This position also perfectly frames the brand's logo, which is usually right there under the 12. And finally, the hands are totally separate, so they're not overlapping, which lets them show off the watch's detailed design. It's a total masterpiece of subtle marketing.
So after centuries of evolution and getting perfected by advertisers, you'd think the analog clock face is a totally timeless piece of design, right? Well, in our digital world, its long reign might be facing its biggest challenge ever.
This is a pretty shocking headline, isn't it? Schools over in the UK actually started taking analog clocks out of exam rooms because a growing number of teenagers just couldn't tell time on them. That's a huge, flashing sign of a major generational shift. And look, this isn't just a one-off thing. While yeah, most people can still read a clock face, the number of people who can't is significant and it's growing. I mean, with the time displayed digitally on every single phone, computer, and microwave oven, the skill is just becoming less essential for daily life.
So this leads to a really interesting debate. On one side, you have people who argue that, look, the analog face is just obsolete. It's a relic from another time in our digital world. But on the other side, you have educators arguing that learning to read an analog clock is super important because it reinforces essential math concepts like fractions and counting in multiples.
And that brings us to today, to a real crossroads. For centuries, this design was the absolute, undisputed king of telling time. But now it's become both an icon of our past and a skill that might be slowly fading away. So what do you think? Is this a masterpiece of design that we should fight to preserve? Or is its time finally up?